But to the American people, in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ, 2008, greatness has bestowed us, people of color, in this great race to the presidency. For the first time in American history, we, the people of color, have propelled to the high society and closest to the highest and most respected seat. American greatness, that the first time, the first African American Muslim, a Christian, a man for all the people, or sheep in wolf's clothing, an inspiration for all Americans, the uniter of the color divide, or is he a liar and spreads political deceit, or just ashamed of who he is and who is Barack Obama and what does he really stand for? So far, nobody really knows. Nobody knows who he is. Only his wife, Michelle, his minister, and the congregation he attends. My brothers and sisters, should we honor a man who will not honor his great historic heritage? Especially with the seat of the presidency? Or will we Americans of all nations fall into this deceit that he is not a Muslim, but a Christian? Have we really come to this point of deceit that we have forgotten that to be a Muslim is to be of a great people of our world history, like we Americans, like the British and the Scots, like the Irish and the Israelis, or the Chinese? Or are we going to remember to be a Christian is to be part of a great religion, like being an Orthodox or Judaism, Buddhism, pagan, or whatever, or part of the Islamic faith? Let us remember that wars that take place today are not because they're Muslims and we're Americans. It's because all people have that right of freedom. And if you call, we should come. It's because we are the nation of the world, that our forefathers of all the nations came to this new land not to forget who they were, but for the preservation of all people, of American people today. Free America was not founded on radicalism nor the blood of slaves. Free America was founded on the backs of all slaves, from the black cotton field picker to the white store owners, the masters, who had to give up their monies for taxes to a king. Some say you can't compare the two, for the black slaves were beaten, whipped, some delimbed, but nevertheless, that whites were slaves too. For if they didn't pay their taxes, they too were beat and whipped, jailed, and sometimes killed. And my friends, sometimes they too were hung. Sometimes they too were hung in the center of the square, for all could fear his master, King George of England. But that was yesterday, and on our great history, that's our great history, and we should never forget and always honor that in the year of our Lord Christ, in 1776, when the proclamation for war and freedom was announced in a town in Massachusetts, the first black slave was in the courthouse fighting for her freedom. And it was her, and her advocate was her slave master. And he said, Your Honor, if we in this new nation are to fight for this freedom for all, that all should have that right of freedom. And she was granted freedom and was paid for her work. That the great Declaration of Independence is not stained with the blood of black slaves, but all slaves, whites and blacks. It is the foundation of all free people today. And it was the great white forefather, Thomas Jefferson, who fought to abolish slavery, as the great forefather George Washington fought the battles for victory or death, as our Democratic brothers from the South demanded. They needed the slaves. So for the preservation and the freedoms of a people, he rewrote the Declaration without those words of freedom for the slaves. But he left it, leaving it open in the hope of this freedom endured by our Creator. All men are equal, and with this, a man out of the wilderness walked. A man out of the wilderness walked. As industries evolved, he saw the despair. He saw the despair and the hope in the eyes of the slaves, and the fight for the free. And still the southern slaves began. That today, on this land we live and say we love, there should be no colorization of who we are as black or white, but only humans and Americans with the great blessings of being from all the nations. Let's put behind this thought of black and white Americans and recognize the heritage of we Americans. Let's give up. Let's give it up for the Trinity Church of Christ, for reaching out to the children, the hungered, the homeless. But let's boo it for allowing radicals